Get ready, everyone, and you just might survive. Ruben and Jason are here with their X-Men deep
It's like an
dive.
exhaustive deep dive.
Going through
It's
all
like
the
an
X-books is their
exhaustive
mission,
deep
so
dive.
get ready for the learned edition. Things are getting weird in here. Ruben hopes another sword book gets announced this year. It's the
Ruben.
Weird Dose of X, the X-Men comic show. It's the Weird Dose of X, guaranteed. It's the Weird Dose of X, guaranteed not to blow.
Ruben.
Except your mind. It's the Weird Dose of X, the X-Men comic show. It's the Weird Dose of X, guaranteed not to blow. Except your mind.
Welcome, all you weirdos, secret evil twins, and everyone who wishes they had the mutant power of stabilizing their 401k. It is time to receive your 143rd Weird Dose of X, the mutant member of your Weird Science family. I am your particularly flammable host, Jason, broadcasting as always from the Wrong Turn studio perched high atop stately Weird Science Tower, and communicating with me over Psycoms, at least until Quentin Quire gets blown out of the sky, is my pal Ruben. Hey Ruben, how the heck are you today?
Hey, doing okay. I'm going to try to mute myself more regularly because I have a bit of a horrible cough, but otherwise doing all right.
Okay, do what you can do, but we're glad you're here. Yeah, I am kind of flammable today, or at least I was yesterday. I was filling my car up with gas, not particularly paying attention, and you know how there's an auto shutoff feature on the pump that always 100% of the time shuts off the flow of gas when it's full? Yeah, that didn't work. So apparently there was gas pouring down the side of my car, which I didn't even notice until some of it splashed on my foot and my toe felt wet. So yeah, that's not good. Maybe
doing
the
a Zoolander.
I was not actually doing the gas fight like the Y-mail models in Zoolander. I'm thinking maybe the lawmakers in New Jersey and I think Oregon, maybe they have it right. Maybe us civilians aren't qualified to actually pump our own gas. Maybe I should just pay attention to what the hell I'm doing. One of those two things is
move
true.
to Oregon.
Did Oregon change that? I thought maybe Oregon changed it.
I don't know. I'll continue to make fun of them. I mean, that was one of the things.
I know New Jersey still has it. The first time my wife drove to New Jersey, she was so confused because she drove up to the pump and started to get out of the car. I said, no, you have to stay in. She's like, what, why? And a guy comes to the window. She's like, what are you doing here? No,
yeah, okay, you're right. June 2023.
So it's just Jersey now?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Only the Garden State. Yeah, so if you ever go to New Jersey, do not try to get out and pump your own gas. It's not allowed. You'll get in trouble. Okay, that was a little public service announcement for you there. So today we have a few comics to talk about. We have the Infinity comic, as always. We have X-Men number 14, Hellverine number 5, Psylocke number 6, and then we're out of here. Ruben, anything you want to add before we jump on into that Infinity comic?
Nope. Well, you know what? Actually, I'll say shout out to Garb Jones in our our little chat. I agree with his assessment that Laura Kinney number 4 was awful, and I don't think we need to cover it. It's just not a good comic book.
Oh, wow. Okay, so yeah, we don't need to cover that. We're not going to cover the next one next week. It's just not a good comic book, but something that is a pretty good comic book is... I was trying to click the ding sound, and I clicked the button to erase the ding sound. So, Jim, there will be no ding sounds on this podcast. It'll have to be manual. Okay,
ding.
Here we go. Ding sound. All right, that was perfect. Moving on to Astonishing X-Men number 16, Controlled Demolition Part 5, which is the penultimate chapter of this arc. It is written by Alex Packnadel, art by Philip Sevi, colors by Michael Bartolo, and letters by Clayton Cowles. Ruben, it seems that the destruction at the construction site was kind of more extensive than I'd thought last issue. Like, the whole thing has just crumbled.
Yes.
Skin is trapped under the rubble. Banshee and Paige are trying to get him out. And the entire freaking army appears to be here because folks reported that this was all done by the Hulk. Now, you and I know it wasn't the Hulk, just a Hulk, but I don't think the army cares so much about fine distinctions like that.
Yeah.
We do get Skin admitting to have some limitations on his abilities. He says, quote, I'm not Reed Richards, which is who I was comparing him to. I have a ton of extra skin, but I can't fit through a mailbox, saying why he can't just slither out of the rubble. Now, Ruben, didn't we see him stretching his arm up like several stories?
Yes.
So I'm still kind of confused about what he can and can't do. Like, was that not really his whole arm, just like a skin tentacle, which is gross even to say?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't know. I'd like some clarification there. Paige, she's still bioluminescing from the end of the last issue. Banshee doesn't want to be left out of the mutant party, so he considers using his voice to try to shift the rubble around, which is a horrible idea. Nick the Hulk shows up now. He's in full self-pity mode, right? Everyone's out to get him. His boss, the army, now this glowing girl who glows so hard it hurts his Hulk eyes. Why everyone hate Nick.
Mongo only pawn in game of life.
So Angelo got free at some point. I guess like when Nick the Hulk jiggled the rubble around a bit. Is that when he got out from under the rubble?
Yeah, it must be.
I think. So Angelo tries to reason with the Hulk, and he kind of hits him. It's kind of like some semi-Marxist discourse about how mutants and blue-collar workers should stick together in class solidarity against, quote, the people who set us against each other in the first place. By which I guess he means the bosses who own the construction company?
Yes.
And also, kind of the flat scanners, although Angelo doesn't know about them, at least not how they're connected with Nick.
Mm-hmm.
So Nick the Hulk seems to have taken to the re-education here. He goes off to fight the real enemy, the boss man of the management trailer, local representative of the ruling classes. Banshee shows up to protect the boss man, so I guess Banshee's representing the bourgeoisie. I'll have to work on this analogy a little bit, but Nick the Hulk bounces off again. And at the end, he shows up at his kid's elementary school, which I'm sure will go just fine. Well,
that's this comic makes me feel like a jerk because I felt kind of bad for the boss.
Oh, your class consciousness needs to be raised, Ruben.
Yeah, well, what did he do wrong, right? Like, he has a job, and he hired some people, and he fired some people, right? Like, you go for...
well, he didn't pay Skin all the money he should have had.
Okay.
Remember, he did that.
Yeah,
and
that's not great.
That's not great. And how much he's like, I think we're going to find out that the boss, maybe the boss will actually be part of the flat scanners. Right? Mm-hmm. Maybe they're playing both ends here somehow. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I guess they would have just ruined their own project, but maybe they have insurance. So yeah, the story here is all right, despite the political overtones. I mean, we have been saying since the start of the story that this idea is kind of cool, that mutants moving back from Krakoa en masse would disrupt some economic patterns in the rest of the human world, and that's kind of fun to write about.
Yeah.
I think the take here is a little shallow, but, it is a comic book, and specifically, this is a comic book that's meant to be read on your phone, probably while you're sitting on the toilet, so it is what it is.
Yeah.
If I wanted to go deeper, I'd compare Nick the Hulk to, like, Boxer the horse from the book Animal Farm, but this is not a political podcast. In fact, Ruben, we may be doing the only podcast in the whole world this week that's not talking politics. So let's just stop right there. Something is going on with Nick the Hulk's neck, right? They keep talking about it like, I think Banshee comments on it. It's in the art. He's kind of growing these things on his shoulders very close to his neck, which I think the hint is that that's going to be what finally brings him down.
Yeah, he's going to choke himself out.
Do you think he's going to end the story dead or reverting back to human form or is he stuck as a Hulk? What do you think?
I think he'll be dead.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. That could be right, yeah.
Because he goes to his daughter's school or something, right? So we're going to have some sort of, what have you become? And then his daughter will calm him down, and then he'll die. That's my prediction. It
started off with him talking to his ex-wife, ex-girlfriend, whatever, his kid's mom, about how he wanted to see the kid, but he hasn't paying his child support. So that is coming full circle. So something unfortunate is going to happen to Nick next chapter, I'm pretty sure. Now, artist Phil Sevy continues to do some cool stuff with the vertical scrolling format. Especially that bit when Nick the Hulk throws a girder at a helicopter, because he throws it down the page, because that's how we read the story from top to bottom. And when we scroll down, we find we're now looking up at a helicopter. Now, if that was printed out on like a physical paper comic book page, wouldn't make any sense. But in the Infinity format, looks great. So I'm glad that the artist, or at least this artist, Philip Sevy, is really catching on to how this medium is different from a regular comic book. Good stuff. Anything else we want to add about the Infinity comic before we move on? Okay, I'm going to have to choose a different sound effect to be our ding sound, so I will go with...
How dare you!
There we go. Okay, moving on to X-Men number 14, Legacy number 314, which is 100 times pi approximately. This is called Search and Rescue. It's written by Jed MacKay, pencils by Ryan Stegman, inks by Stegman and J.P. Mayer, colors by Marte Gracia, and letters by Clayton Cowles. So we're out of crossover territory, Ruben, thank goodness, now and for at least the foreseeable future, which allows Jed MacKay to pick up a few of the many story strands that he's kind of begun. This time specifically, we revisit Piper Cobb and 3K. Piper is that little girl with the anti-mutant mom, the girl who thought she might be a mutant, but who tested negative for the X gene, then went home and grew a monster arm while she slept. Weird stuff. And 3K is, of course, that group of mysterious #shadowy figures introduced all the way back in that bonus page of MacKay's issue number 1. We already knew that one of its members is Charles Xavier's evil twin sister, Cassandra Nova. This issue will learn one more. Ruben, do you think Cassandra is also an avian? Do you think she's part of that group?
Yeah, I've been counting her as one of the avians.
So do you think that she needs Shi'ar brain surgery at some point, or do you think Jed MacKay is just going to pretend that doesn't actually exist?
She's the one that doesn't need it. I don't know. There's some weird stuff about her, right? Because she died at birth and then somehow got a body later. So maybe
she was dead, but then she wasn't because it's comics. And that wacky that page. I think it was a Frank Quitely panel in the Morrison New X-Men that showed the two fetuses fighting in the womb. Remember that one?
Yes.
That's an unforgettable, wacky comic panel. So another panel, well, not even a panel we should talk about, is the cover of this issue, which done by the same art team as the interiors, Stegman, Mayer, and Gracia. That's cool. And really, Ryan Stegman has created some excellent covers for this run. We had Juggernaut on a phone screen. We had Cyclops spinning in circles, eye blasting everything in sight. And now we get Quentin Quire getting blown out of the sky, which is something that actually happens in the issue. On the cover, I like it when that happens. I even like the design here. I've said before, I'm a sucker for this kind of thing, but how the logo, the credits, and the issue number are all higgledy-piggledy in disarray because of the explosion. Like, the explosion was so huge as to blast right through the fourth wall and, actually change the comic. Kind of a cheap trick, but it's a cheap trick I enjoy. Also, having Quentin's glasses pushed to the extreme foreground is great, emphasizes that whole sense of depth. On the page, his glasses are as big as he is, so really neat look. That's the cover. Let's talk about the inside. Let's start off talking about the baddies, the villains, 3K. When we first saw them on that bonus page, all we had were silhouettes, code names, and a really big table. Code names were the Zealot, the Doctor, the Means, and the Chairman, who is probably not Frank Sinatra. The Zealot we know to be Cassandra Nova. This issue we find out that the Means, who's kind of the muscle of the group, he's a guy named Wire. That's Wyre. You a big Wire fan from back in the day, Ruben? You have the action figure and everything?
I actually think I read one comic with him.
Okay. I thought you might.
Yeah, but I don't know much about him.
Yeah, Wire is a D-list villain from the early 1990s, last seen in 1994, so 31 years ago, give or take. He's very 1990s.
Yeah.
Giant gun, bandolier, pouches. He's not a mutant, but he's a genetically enhanced assassin. Basically, the most Liefeldian character not actually created by Rob Liefeld. Instead, he was created by Simon Furman and Pat Broderick, and before the series, he had only ever appeared in one title. So do you remember where you've seen Wire?
Is he in Alpha Flight?
He is an Alpha Flight.
That's why I ran across him. I knew I ran across him recently.
And I know you've been reading Alpha Flight, so I thought you might know him. He was in issues 114 to 130. And MacKay's been drawing from Alpha Flight kind of regularly, so I wonder if this is just a run he has an affinity for, or is he setting something up Alpha Flight-wise? I don't know, but kind of neat. So Wire is called Wire because he has inorganic tendrils attached to his body that he can control, kind of like Bronze over an Exceptional X-Men, not too different. While I've seen it in this issue, those tendrils even kind of extend into his giant Liefeldian gun, probably enhancing his marksmanship or something. Besides the wires, he also has the usual 1990s set of enhanced strength, speed, agility, durability, reflexes, senses, and naturally, a little bit of a healing factor. He also has claws on his fingers, although in this issue he's wearing gloves, so we don't know if he still has the claws. He's wearing gloves because it's cold out, but he's not wearing a shirt. I guess with the wires, it'd just be in the way, but very silly looking. And Cassandra, she doesn't have a lot of respect for Wire, says he's not even a mutant, just a weapon, which makes me wonder how he got picked for this job. Does 3K not have, like, the draw to get anybody better than if they hate him so much? Kind of weird.
I mean, you're just a new group, right? You don't you don't get Omega Red joining.
Maybe it's an internal power struggle thing, like the chairman really likes Wire.
Yeah.
But Cassandra doesn't. Yeah, exactly.
Some sort of nepotism thing going on.
Maybe they are from Rhode Island.
The Wire. Oh, God, that asshole.
Oh, that's good. He's a Nepo baby. That's good stuff.
I told his mother I'd do her a solid at the last picnic.
he needs it. Just give the kid a chance. He's not that bad. I'll vouch for him. That's probably it. That's the way the world works, Ruben. So, as the issue begins, we have Merle Police Chief Robbins, and she's dropped by the factory to have a friendly cup of coffee with Scott. They seem to be getting on fine. It's weird to me that they're kind of taking their time drinking coffee because she's there for a kind of an important purpose that should be kind of acted on quickly, right? Because Piper Cobb, that little girl, she's wandered off into the wilderness and nobody can find her. So I'm thinking, Chief, maybe you take that cup of coffee to go and get back to work.
That's pretty hilarious. So she shows up to talk about a missing kid, and he's like, hey, can I make you a coffee? Oh, yeah. We'll continue this conversation a little later.
Yeah, it's just an odd. The energy doesn't match.
Coffee, man. You always make time for coffee.
You Northwesterners, man. I don't know. So Scott at least takes this seriously. And when she says the name Piper Cobb, he kind of half reacts, which I think is a good choice because he knows that Piper Cobb has stopped by the factory, but nobody else is supposed to know. So he doesn't want to say, oh, yeah, Piper, we know her. Doesn't want to get the X-Men in trouble. He does send two of his X-Men out into the field to search. Jennifer Starkey, who is settling nicely into her bird form, and Quentin Quire, who's flying the Marauder. Now, Jen has taken to flight in a big way, and there was no real learning curve required. Her mutant power doesn't just change the shape of her body. I guess it also gives her, like, the muscle memory to use the features of that body. She looks like she's having a great time. Flight looks like fun. So I guess we could say the search is going absolutely perfectly, except they're not finding the kid they're looking for. Other than that, going great.
Yeah.
And back in the factory, of all the X-Men, Temper is the one most focused on finding Piper. And she was the one who kind of made friends with the kid early on, was part of bringing her to the X-Men. So that makes sense. And again, it fits in with her established character as being not a troublemaker, but kind of pushing against what Scott thinks the X-Men should be doing. Kind of wants to expand how they react in the world. So I think that's good characterization. Temper also points out that it's kind of odd that Piper would just walk out into the wilderness on her own. And we'll see later on that, yeah, she's right to think that's weird. But Temper can't stand to be stuck at the base, so she jumps onto Corsair's jet bike, which I guess he left behind after the whole interstellar kidnapping situation, zooms out looking for Piper. She ends up talking over Psy-comms with Quentin, and we get reminded that two of them used to be an item. Quentin tries to reassure her that they'll find Piper, that even if she is hurt, Beast and Zorn will patch the kid right up. Now, while that's going on, we have another little character scene between Magneto and Ben. Ben's that guy who accidentally made all of San Francisco think they were being invaded by aliens, and he and Jen Starkey were made into mutants as adults by 3K, so this mutant thing is still very new to him. He suggests, hey, why don't I just put a couple dozen UFOs into the sky to look for Piper? Ruben, is that how his powers work? Did the UFOs report back to him? I thought it was just like an illusion situation. Again, I'm confused at what he can do. What am I missing here?
Yeah, my impression was that it was illusion and not functional, but
they used the term reality warper at some point.
Yeah,
so it's not just visual.
The X-Men were fighting them, so I guess they have some tangible element to them.
Maybe he's working on refining his powers to the point where it would actually be able to tell him what's going on, although I guess they still have to be UFOs. Is that what he's limited to? I don't know. Curious to see what happens there.
Yeah.
But this little
he's coming across as becoming more of a powerful character than I was given to believe initially. But that's fine. I mean, it's, as you say, like kind of developing.
Yeah, when we first met him, these powers had just appeared, and he didn't know what the hell was going on. So he was kind of losing his mind, reasonably enough. And I think now that he understands what happened to him a little more, and here we see that he's kind of working with Magneto. Magneto's taking him under his wing, saying, we have something in common. We both have these really powerful abilities that they get out of control, could cause a lot of trouble. So clearly, McKay's setting up some future stuff going on between Ben and Magneto, which is a neat idea. I like it. Now, back out in the field, we see that Wire, which is 3K's The Means, he's also out there in the Alaskan wilderness, chatting over his own set of comms with Cassandra Nova back at that oversized 3K table, and she reminds him that, quote, "You are there to allow the subject to act unimpeded and to oversee the test." What is that all about? Clearly, it's supposed to be mysterious. Do you have any speculations on who the subject is?
I think it's whatever we're going to call the possession of the little girl.
You think they're connected with that? They don't necessarily have to be, because the little girl's possessed, we'll find out, by her own evil twin who was there from before she was born.
Yeah, it's too much of a link to Cassandra Nova's own past for me to think that it's not a 3K related situation. Because this whole idea of a twin killed at birth that comes back through strange means, that's exactly Cassandra's backstory.
So as far as we know, they've only been working with adults and making adults into mutants.
Yeah.
So that's certainly a possibility. That's certainly something we're being led to believe. I wonder if maybe the subject here might be Jen Starkey. This is the first time that Jen's really out in the field using her powers.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they're observing how that worked, because they gave her these powers and we don't really know why they just let her loose.
Yeah.
Because we saw early on they had some of their own mutants who were working with them, and then they have Jen and Ben who are not. So I'm wondering if that's the subject in the test. But we'll find out eventually. It's supposed to be mysterious, and McKay is setting something up. So speaking of Piper, we pop over and see her point of view for the first time, and she's in an odd place, both figuratively and literally. Now, figuratively, her eyes have gone pure white. She's got one reptile hand, one reptile foot, and repeating to herself, "Gotta find it, gotta find it, gotta be free." And literally, she's in a weird place in that she's approaching the crash site of that dead Akanti space whale, also from that Corsair story. I would have thought that they'd clean up the dead space whale at some point. I guess they don't have that kind of... What's the name of the Marvel World crew that cleans up after superhero problems? Damage Control? That's Damage Control, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Maybe Damage Control hasn't made it up to Alaska yet. I am kind of happy to see that the Corsair story is having more repercussions than just being a two-shot to just kill some time. So that's kind of cool. When Piper gets all the way to the whale site, a couple things happen more or less simultaneously. Comes out of her trance, her eyes go back to normal, lower hands don't. She's confused, doesn't know how she got here, like she wasn't the one in control. And when this happens, Quentin, the psychic boy, now he can sense her exact position. Like the other person in control of her was masking her from Quentin. So Quentin sends that position out to his teammates. Also, right then, Wire points his big old gun at the Marauder, blows the damn thing up real good, resulting in basically what we saw on the cover of the issue. No more Marauder, just a lot of flaming rubble, Quentin falling out of the sky. And again, was he supposed to do that? What is part of the test? Maybe it is Piper. I'm really curious to see next issue how that's going to be explained. So now the X-Men have to be really two places at once, right? They're here to rescue Piper, but now they also have to rescue or maybe recover their teammate who just fell out of the sky. Temper is torn, but she stays on mission to look for Piper. Magic gets real mad at her for not prioritizing her teammate, but kind of odd here, who is the one on panel with the most emotional intelligence? It's freaking Juggernaut, which is really funny to me. I'm really enjoying his character growth. He points out to Magic, Quentin used to be really important to Temper. They used to be an item. Maybe they're still kind of important to each other. Maybe it's for the best if Temper isn't right there when they find Quentin, because maybe Quentin's not so alive anymore. She doesn't need to see that. So Magic, Juggy, and Zorn head off to the crash site. we don't get to see that this issue, presumably the next. We stick with Temper as she catches up to Piper. And now some extra weird stuff starts to happen. Temper wants to use her powers to warm Piper up. The kid has been lost in the snow for hours, but finds that Piper is perfectly warm, which reminds me of how Piper has been super, super hungry lately. So I'm thinking like she was eating for two, as we'll find out. She notices Piper's monster reptile arm, because she hadn't seen that before. Piper's eyes start to glow again, and another voice explains what has been going on. So like we mentioned up above a little bit, Piper has a twin, or had a twin. She absorbed the twin in the womb before she was born, which is gross enough. Piper is not a mutant, but her twin is a mutant. Explains why she tested negative for the X gene when she came to the factory. Somehow, Piper's mutant twin, probably related to the mutant ability, has been hiding inside Piper's body ever since, and now the twin has asserted control to come out here to the Akanti whale wreck, wants to use all this meat to build its own body. And so the issue ends on a splash page of Piper's monster arm turning into tendrils. Lots of tendrils in this book lately, presumably to slurp up all that yummy, yummy space whale meat and make a new body, as Temper looks on in horror, reasonably enough. So Ruben, what do you think of this story overall so far?
It's hard to say because it's just the start of it, but it has a lot of continuity connections to what we've recently seen, and I thought a lot of the characters had good character moments, so I enjoyed it overall. But I need this to be like more interesting, not just a retread of the Cassandra Nova origin. So I'm hoping that we're not going to find out that we have a new big bad villain, but
yeah,
we shall see.
I'm going to guess. I wonder if maybe the twin's not an evil twin. Right? Maybe we should be rooting for the twin because getting the twin out of Piper is just going to be good for Piper, right? She's having some difficulties. So maybe it'll be the contrast where Cassandra, I don't know how to say it. Yeah. Cassie is the evil twin in the womb. Maybe this will be, a good twin.
Helpful. Yeah.
Could be. And I want to really see how 3K is mixed up because I don't see their connection to Piper. Have we had any hints of them talking about Piper at all? I don't think so.
No. All we have with Piper is the mom and whatever that organization is.
I don't think it was even an organization. It was just some people who don't like mutants and make signs. So, yeah, I'm curious why Quentin had to be shot down. Maybe he just was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Were they trying to prevent him from finding Piper? I don't know. Very, very curious.
Yeah.
And it does seem, from looking at the solicits, that the next few issues are all sticking with this 3K story. So maybe we'll even find out who the other shadowy figures are, the doctor, the chairman. Mm-hmm. We're back on the 3K beat, which I'm happy about.
Yeah.
Do you think Quentin's going to be okay?
I assume so. Although he died a lot in X-Force, right?
I think we're out of eggs right now.
What's inside the fucking egg?
I don't think we're gonna get another Quentin egg. He's not on any of the solicited covers. The next 3-4 covers don't show him, which might mean nothing.
Yeah,
might mean something. Would be weird to have him just die out of nowhere with no arc of him going through leading up to that. But would be an interesting choice by Jed MacKay.
Yeah, well, that'd be a big kill too. I'd be surprised they got rid of Kid Omega.
Yeah, I'd put a low probability on that, but not zero. Stegman's art, as usual, top-notch, really good stuff. Action-packed, cool. I just like the way he plays with the camera, like the wire reveal. We get some little close-ups of little parts of him until we get the pullback and the page turn, and you have him announce himself right there. He draws a really nifty explosion of the characters. Originally, I thought the characters kind of looked a little bit goofy than when he was drawing them, but I think I'm getting used to that, and I think there's no real comedy scenes in this issue, and he tends to make them goofier in the comedy scenes, so no complaints there. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with this issue. I love that MacKay's getting to tell his own story again, that he's getting back to these story beats that were planted along the way. I think the mysteries are appropriately mysterious. They make me want to see what happens next. Nothing mind-blowing, nothing earth-shattering, but good, solid X-Men kind of storytelling. And I think if people haven't been enjoying X-Men, I think this is maybe a good issue to jump back in on. And I'm going to give it an 8.3 out of 10. How about you?
Yeah, nice. I second everything you say. And I've come to like this art now. It's enjoyable to me. It is very stylized, but it's very detailed, right? And so once you get used to the style, I can just appreciate it. Looks like a lot of effort was put in, and certainly all the characters look very distinct. Like, I don't wonder like who is that in the background, right? Even at far away, it's pretty clear who he's drawing. So yeah, I don't know if I'll go 8-3, but just 8. Very happy with this, and
all right,
kind of excited to see where it's going.
Excellent. That was X-Men number 14, and now we are moving on to...
How dare you!
Hellverine number 5, The Mephisto Conspiracy, which is the end of the first arc of this ongoing series. It's written by Benjamin Percy, art by Raphael Ienco, colors by Brian Valenza, and letters by Travis Lanham. Now, when we left our demonic hero, he was being drowned to death by a water demon. And I guess he does actually die because he dropped straight into hell where Mephisto's waiting for him. Mephisto, not thrilled about Akihiro resisting the demonic impulses of the demon within him, that demon that allowed him to return to the world of the living, Mephisto rips the demon Bagragul out of Akihiro through his mouth, really gross, and then to show him who's boss, he allows Bagragul to torture Akihiro for a while, turns him into one of those, like, demonic corpse works of art that Bagragul likes so much. And now Mephisto announces his evil master plan. We knew he had something he wanted to do with Akihiro, and now he tells us. Ruben, it's not as clever as you might hope it would be, right? This is Mephisto. He's, the devil of the Marvel Universe, the Prince of Lies.
Yeah.
His big plan is, hey, Ruben, mutants are kind of cool, stronger than humans, and if the mutants win and take over the world, if I control the mutants, that means I rule the world.
Yeah.
That's it. Nothing more complicated than that. It's just kind of the fear and hatred, but fear and hatred, and I can use that.
Yeah.
So, pretty lame plan, really, but I did enjoy the splash page where he announces it. Right? I think this is getting back to that so over-the-top dumb that it's fun to look at. This is a page showing that possible future, shows a selection of high-profile mutants, Charles, Magneto, Beast, even Apocalypse, and they're all drawn to look cartoonishly evil, but like a little kid's version of evil, meaning like they just kind of all wear spiked leather jackets, like they're going to a Sex Pistols concert, or maybe, I guess, Judas Priest would be more appropriate in the circumstances.
Yes.
So I've spent an embarrassingly long amount of time just looking at this page, zooming in on the details. Jean Grey with these big old horns growing out of her head. She's got a skull on her forehead. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah,
but
it's pretty absurd.
Do you think this is getting back to the fun ridiculous, or is this too dumb to be fun?
No, that's definitely fun. I laughed so hard when I saw it.
It's a great page. This issue might be worth buying just for this page. It is well worthwhile. What is that symbol on the front of Charles' evil motorized wheelchair?
I don't know.
It might just be a pitchfork. It looks almost like a character, like a stylized, maybe Hebrew-ish character.
It's a symbol of evil. That's what it is.
Yes, it might just be a pitchfork. I don't know. So, Mephisto gives Akihiro a choice, and it's exactly the choice you'd expect. Akihiro can either stay here in hell, that's bad, or he can agree to live again but has to serve Mephisto in the world. Also not great. Akihiro gets a brief flashback where he decides that if I'm going to live again, it won't be for power or revenge, because originally his character was all about revenge. This time it will be, quote, for others. Okay, that's fine. Not exactly a deep part of the deal Mephisto's offering. Akihiro's not taking the deal. Instead, he pops his bone claws, uses them to scratch a symbol onto Bagragul. Symbol looks kind of like a palmetto tree. Like if you've seen the flag of South Carolina, that's what it reminded me of.
Yeah.
But this is not just a cool tree. It's a, quote, possession cipher that Akihiro learned from that Book of Lamentations that Dr. Strange gave him. So now Akihiro reabsorbs and is in full control of Bagragul. Is Bagragul defeated that easily? That seems awful simple, that just have a little doodle on his tummy, and now the dead Wolverine kid is in control. But that's what we get.
That's what happened, yes.
That's what happens. And this gives Akihiro the power to fight Mephisto. They kind of brawl a little bit there in hell. Mephisto tosses Akihiro back into the real world, and I guess this is our new status quo. Akihiro, in possession of demonic power, can do with it pretty much whatever he wants. maybe we'll see the demon trying to fight back a little bit, but I don't think so. I think this is just now Akihiro with a new power set. Is that what you think we have?
Correct, yeah. My sense was like, they were like, okay, we got to get beyond this. Like, he's not struggling for control anymore. He's now in charge of his power. We're just going to go do some stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you could take this whole ongoing either direction. Either it's all about him, trying to control this evil power within him and fighting against Mephisto's plan, or it can just say, let's have him be, a superhero with cool powers who can do cool stuff. And they've gone that way, I think. Now, on the final page, we do get the setup for our next arc. It's Dr. Spivey. You remember Dr. Spivey?
I don't, but as soon as they talked about the pentangle, I was like, okay, you're hanging out with that group.
Yeah, she was like the second in command there. General Harms, great name.
Yes.
General Harms was running things. Turned out he was basically a demon. He died in that first miniseries.
Yeah.
So I guess she got promoted.
Yeah, I like how that horrible thing happened and they didn't disband the organization. They were like, okay.
No, we'll just put somebody else in charge, and maybe she won't turn out to be a demon.
Yeah, it's a slight mistake. Fundamentally playing with the forces of hell, not a bad idea.
Kind of a metaphor there.
We had the wrong person, right?
Yeah, it's just the wrong person, the wrong job. We can fix that. Now, they are still going to recruit a demon to work with them, for sure, right? Because she's here, and where are they now? Are they in Genosha?
Seems like it, yeah.
That's where they were, right? So
somehow that's where he drowned, right?
Right.
So, yeah, they're there initially.
So
I was a little weirded out by like how they were following him, but it's okay. I guess news reports or something.
Yeah, it must have been news reports. And she's here in this giant armored vehicle. I don't know how this got to this island, but fine. They must have some sort of a big old helicarrier or a ship or something. And the next mission that they want his help with is target Hell Hulk. And once again, Hell Hulk looks to be pretty much what you'd figure. He's a red Hulk with these curling goat demon horns.
Yeah.
Lots of Hulks around lately, right? We get a red Hulk going on with the One World Under Doom. We get a Hulk version in the Infinity comic. And now we have a Hulk for Akihiro to fight here in Hellverine. I wonder what this Hulk's backstory is going to be. Do you think he also was sitting next to the Chicago Bean and someone gave him a vial of red gamma? Probably not, but curious what his deal is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's the issue. I did have more fun with this one than the last couple issues. Again, that one splash page really sold it for me. Silly, dumb, fun stuff.
Yeah, it's heading in the right direction. It's getting back to what I was hoping the series was, and less of the like body horror kind of.
Yeah, we don't need brooding
stuff.
Brooding. Oh, am I a bad guy? Am I being controlled by the devil? I just want to see fun over the top demon stuff on the page, and that could be where we're going.
Yes.
The possession cipher, kind of dumb, but it gets us where we needed to be, so I'll go with it. The Raphael Ienco art. He seems to be having a blast, too. He seems to be enjoying drawing all the silliness, and that fun comes through. And as always, do not come to this title looking for anything deep or serious, but it was a good time, so I'm going to give Hellverine number 5 a 7.3 out of 10. How about you, Ruben?
Yeah, I'll go 7.5. I liked it a lot.
7.5, all right.
This is what I'm hoping in the series is just insanity and doing like over-the-top cool stuff. That's what, Ben Percy's pretty good at. I don't need... You're not so good at like convincing me that, this character is dealing with deep emotional feelings.
Indeed. Yeah, we liked him in X-Force when he was doing, we called it the action movie mode. Yeah. And if this gets back to being an action movie, that could be a nice book to have as part of our X line. Okay, on to our last book of the podcast, which is, that's going to make me laugh every time, which is Psylocke number 6, House of Ghosts. It's the start of a brand new arc. It's written by Alyssa Wong, art by Vincenzo Hidalgo and Moises Hidalgo. I think I said that wrong. I have too many Hidalgos. Vincenzo Caratu and Moises Hidalgo. Colors, sorry about that, by Fer Cifuentes Sujo, and letters by Ariana Mayer. Now, we had said we were dropping this, but there was some talk about it in the Slack chat, and there wasn't a whole lot of other books this week, so figured we'd check it out. Yeah,
it's doing a lot more stuff here. I actually feel like if it is going to go in this direction, it's something we won't be able to drop. So kudos to Wong and deciding.
Well, I think you underrate my ability to drop a book, but that's okay.
I don't think the writing is quite solid, but it is touching on things that seem relevant to the rest of the line.
Indeed. And when I was writing out my notes, the phrase I kept coming back to is, this is a title that means well, right? Alyssa Wong's trying hard to kind of be a team player, ties in with existing titles, spread some of that continuity around. I appreciate that. But yeah, the way the book is written bugs me. Mostly the dialogue. Like, the characters all seem to be like 15 to 25 IQ points dumber in this book than in all their other books. They're just a little simple, a little off. So I wonder if maybe just having somebody else polish up the dialogue might make things better. So this issue starts with the Alaskan X-Men on a mission. So we're tying back in with McKay's X-Men. At least a couple of them. We have Magic and Cannon trying to capture the upstart who goes by the name of Orifice. Awful name that I hate even saying out loud, which is a very clear callback to McKay's X-Men number 4 when they were fighting the upstarts. And the two X-ladies are about to capture Orifice when Cannon either sees a ghost or has a hallucination, possibly related to that butterfly dust she inhaled in the last arc. What she hears and sees is a vision of her dead daughter, Himiko. Now, Himiko was killed by the hand as part of Cannon's training, and the butterfly tattoo we see on the back of hallucination Himiko's neck here comes right out of Fallen Angels number 1, which is not a book you usually expect to see referenced, because that was like the one early Krakoan era title that nobody seemed to like, that just kind of got pushed aside. That kind of set the scene for Hellions, which we all loved. But this made me look back at Fallen Angels, which I don't think I'd ever do. Now, this hallucination or apparition distracts Cannon, which allows Orifice to get away. And as a scene, as a description of a scene, not a bad idea. But the art here, Ruben, not great. Several panels look like they kind of went out the door when they weren't fully cooked yet.
Yeah.
Like it was a rough sketch. Oh, deadline's here. Ship it. That's what it looks like. And looking at the schedule, the previous issue of Psylocke came out only 2 weeks before this one. So the idea that it'd be a schedule crunch, that's why we have multiple artists. It kind of makes sense, but doesn't make the book any better. The art still looks bad in this scene. Am I being too picky here?
No, I think the art is pretty bad. Do you have any idea why there would be such a scheduling crunch on this?
There's some of the books just like Laura Kinney Wolverine also has only 2 weeks between. Like, they had an issue come out last week. They have their next issue come out next week. So I'm not sure if that was ever on purpose or something was late or things are moved around for events. I don't know. We'd have to, buy Tom Brevoort a couple of beers or something and get him to talk about that.
Yeah, it just seems weird to me that it rushes this one out.
Yeah, and again, that's just my speculation as to what happened. Maybe everything was done weeks in advance, but it doesn't look like it. And again, the dialogue here has characters sounding kind of stupid again, Magic has been written as a bit of a goofball, so that's consistent, but Psylocke should not sound like a dim bulb. Quentin also comes off like a really, really simplified version of who he's been in the actual X-Men title.
Yeah.
Moving on, we get the next scene, Magic and Psylocke back in the factory having cinnamon rolls together. And this is not an action-packed scene, but it's a good character-building scene with good chemistry between these two. I like it. And it's weird in that the art here is like several notches above the previous scene, which is just a scene of them sitting around talking, eating cinnamon rolls. You'd think if you're putting the time in, you'd emphasize the action. It's just an odd choice. I don't know which artist may have drawn which panels. I don't know, but these panels look really good. So Magic offers to help Psylocke with the whole hallucination thing. Then Psylocke has a second hallucination, this time seeing zombie visions of Cyclops and Quentin. Maybe she sees what's happening in X-Men. Plus, we get another two-headed Canon Betsy version of herself, like we saw at the very, very end of the first arc.
Yeah, I was like, oh, God.
Yeah, so we're just getting hints of this vision. We don't really know, even by the end of the issue, we don't really know what's quite going on with her. The next scene, very, very strange. Psylocke, looking for a little, emotional support, calls her boyfriend, John Greycrow. John Greycrow can't really talk, Ruben. So what's keeping him so occupied he can't talk to his girlfriend right now?
He seems to be robbing a bank actively.
He's in the and not like just breaking in and stealing money. He's like shooting at guards. Right? He has his cell phone in one hand. He's not even using Bluetooth, and he's actively shooting back at guards who are shooting at him.
Yeah,
very strange. I mean, I know anti-heroes are a thing, but do you think that Cyclops, for instance, would tolerate John Greycrow, dating one of his team members, living, I don't know, a mile or so away from the factory and violently robbing banks?
Yeah, I was thinking about that today. Just like, I know she's an ex-assassin, but she's just casually cool with like the idea of robbing whoever. I mean, I guess she's very militant if that's the case, like former Brotherhood level. But I never thought of her as having that. Well, I guess, maybe in the 90s it was Betsy, so different personality, but it's weird to me.
Yeah, and it's shown as if there's no tension here, right? She says, "Oh, sorry to call you during work, John." And it's not sarcastic. It's not painted as humorous. It's just, oh, this is just what he does, and she's fine with it.
Yeah, a little strange.
Little weird. So next, Magic does take Psylocke off to talk to her ghost guy. And the ghost guy turns out to be, first, I didn't mention at the end of this scene where she's talking to her boyfriend, another hallucination. Every scene ends with her having vision, apparition, hallucination, very much a pattern. So now she finally agrees to take Magic up on her offer to go see some person that Magic knows who can deal with ghosts. And Ruben, who does the ghost guy turn out to be?
Yeah, it's Death Dream.
It's Death Dream of the Louisiana Uncanny X-Men. Once again, I love the idea of, the continuity here. We know Death Dream. He is kind of a spooky kid. He sees ghosts. But this Death Dream does not seem really the same character we've gotten to know. In this case, he's like way more together. He's like a little spooky teenage Mr. Miyagi. He diagnoses Psylocke as 100% haunted, not hallucinating. He offers to touch Psylocke's hands, which will allow him to see her ghost for further analysis. Rogue flies in, acts like a complete dummy version of Rogue. Again, super simplified version. She's just so angry. How are you here? Why are you here? I'm going to beat you up.
Yeah.
But while they're arguing, the scene and the book ends with a much more powerful ghostly manifestation. And unfortunately, this panel, arguably the most important panel in the book, also gets the low-level art treatment. Right? This ghost looks like it's just kind of been sketched onto the page, more comedic than scary, which can't possibly be the intent. So, what even to rate this issue? The concept is fine. Love the continuity connections. I wish the characters seemed more like themselves. I wish the dialogue was polished up a bit. Certainly wish that the art was more consistent and all the lower level stuff maybe was rushed out the door, had time to be polished to the higher level. But Ruben, I'm going to try to be positive here. I'm going to give this a 6 out of 10. So what do you think?
Yeah, it's hard. It's doing things that I want to see, right? Like I'm interested in seeing a interaction between Cyclops' X-Men team and Rogue's X-Men team.
Great.
And it is interesting to see like more Death Dream in general, so we can get an opportunity to see what his power set is. And I am interested in the Greycrow Psylocke relationship. So those are all like positive points. The art is not so great. And I guess I even enjoyed seeing the like Magic Psylocke like friendship.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think that could be a very, very much going forward, a nice little team within the team on that X-Men.
Yeah. So I guess when I say all this, I'm talking myself up. I was going to give it a 5.5, but I think I'll just say a 6, a positive 6.
All right. We'll
not
end,
like
we'll
I like
being
it
positive.
6, but let's be positive about this getting better. But there's some stuff that just annoys me, like the casual crimes.
Yeah.
And the art.
Really good ideas, but it just seems like one more pass on the script, one more pass on the art.
Yeah.
And this could have been, up in the 8 kind of range. It needed some more work. Not quite cooked yet. Okay, that was our final book of the show. And looking forward to next week. The big book next week is going to be Uncanny number 13. We'll see Death Dream again for sure, because this is the start of a 4-issue arc called Dark Artery. Looks like it's going to be much more about the Outliers again, and maybe telling us more about Haven House. And yeah, I've been saying for a while now that something weird is happening at Haven House. Like the scientists back at Greymalkin couldn't detect the Outliers until they left. There's some sort of mysterious secret of Haven House, and I think we're going to find out about that soon. Next week, we also have Storm number 7. And I'm really hoping we find out where Storm got those giant robot kaiju engines powering her Storm Sanctuary. And also we'll need to find out what is the connection between her and Eternity and who's in control and how that's going to go, because she has a big fight to go against, another cosmic force. Next week, we also have Phoenix number 10, which we're told will finally be the end of this endless Adani storyline. So we'll at least check in with that and tell you how it all turns out. And like I mentioned earlier, Laura Kinney Wolverine number 5 does come out next week. Probably won't be talking about that, but it will be coming out if you want to read it. So, Ruben, I know you'll be rushing right out to read Laura Kinney Wolverine number 5, but what else could our loyal listeners do to pass their time until then?
And we could all look up Wire's origin. His earlier appearances.
Alpha Flight 113, go read those.
Yep. All right. Or some X-Men comics. Bye.
Either way, could go either way.
Get ready, everyone, and you just might survive. Ruben and Jason are here with their X-Men deep dive.
It's like an exhaustive deep dive.
All the X-books is their mission, so get ready for the learned edition. Things are getting weird in here. Ruben hopes another sword book gets announced this year. It's the Weird Dose of X, the X-Men comic show. It's the Weird Dose of X, guaranteed. It's the Weird Dose of X, guaranteed not to blow. Accept your mind. It's the Weird Dose of X, the X-Men comic show. It's the Weird Dose of X, guaranteed not to blow. Accept your mind.
What's inside the fucking egg?
Mango only pawn in game of life.